Joe, just a couple clarifications. All right. In this bill, it says that the officer has to have training and keep his training up, which he pays for every 3 years. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the training that we're talking about is the type of training that retired police officers usually get for their HR 218. Correct?
I'm not familiar with the training that takes place under HR 218, but if you know better than I, we should talk about it.
Okay. The HR 218 training is the federal training, but there's no guidelines. So if that's the training that they normally have to qualify under HR 218, the federal law, that's probably the training that we're talking about here, right?
It is sufficient, I'm told.
Okay, terrific. Now, under this bill also, if you go to page 2 and you go to line 26, and we start with that word, however,
I'll try to read it. It'll take a little time. Yes.
okay. Now, when you read that section after, however, that can be interpreted to say that if you take me, for example, I retired a long time ago, right? More than 18 months, all right? And if I retired with a revolver, but under this, I can have a replacement revolver. So under this, if I had the training within 18 months of this becoming law, right, I would fall under this exception also with a 9mm.
The goal is to allow everyone who used this on their job the ability to qualify.
Okay. But the question that I'm asking you, and I understand what you're saying there, and that would be for officers that were trained after leaving the police department, right, within a certain amount of time, if you read the top part of it. So this is broken up in 2 sections. One is police officers who have retired less than 18 months, and when you get to the however section, that's for police officers that have retired more than 18 months, correct?
Say it again. Yeah. Right. The bill says that you still have to qualify 12 years before you're retired. 12 months, excuse me. 12 months before you're retired. But for those people who didn't, this is a window of opportunity for them to qualify.
Terrific. And that's for the people more than 18 months.
Yes.
Terrific. So then then what I'm saying is that a court could interpret this to, in my case, where I can be qualified because I'm retired more than 18 months. So you could make that interpretation under the language. Wouldn't you agree with that? That you could make this interpretation under this language? No, you didn't.
I believe that's true only if you use the clip as while you were a police officer.
Okay, I think we may differ there, Joe, because when I look at the word however, now, we're both attorneys, and I love that word however. And that word however, when we're reading this, once we get to that however point, what that says is, okay, this is like an exception to what you just read above. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I needed, Joe. I appreciate that. Thank you. On the bill?
On the bill, Mr. Graf.
Technical.
I'm happy to, as a retired police officer, and knowing a lot of police officers that have retired, I'm happy to see this bill here today, and I will be voting for it. I'm also happy when I can see an opportunity to chip away at a really poorly written law, as we did have with the SAFE Act. So this is just another chip, and I'm hoping that someday a court will bring this up again, and we will be able to see this bill in chief ruled that it's unconstitutional. I believe that we should have people with the ability to have lawful firearms, and today that became very apparent when you look at the New York Post. And there's actually, the front page story is about two individuals who were in London, England, and they chopped off the head of a serviceman because he was in the service. I believe that something like this may have been prevented if there were people there that were licensed to carry a firearm that could have stopped this. So that's one of the reasons, and I thought it was very sad article in the paper today, but one we should take note of when we try to take away the rights of our citizens. And also, it's a fine example of why the framers gave us our Second Amendment rights. I will be voting yes for this bill. And Joe, I appreciate your candor in the debate, and I thank you very much for putting this forward today.